Hello everyone, Raven here. I hope you're all having an amazing day because today we will be talking about brushes. More specifically, the brushes that I use in order to create the look that I have with my art style. Because a lot of people have very aggressively actually been asking me like, what brushes do you use? How do you blend with those brushes? Yeah, so here you go. But first things first, I want to get this very clear. Brushes don't matter.
Yup, yup.
Well, they kinda do, but I think not as much as people consider them to be. Because to me, painting is knowing how to efficiently place down shapes of colors in a way that is appealing and meshes well together in order to create a good image. And even though it is nice to have a certain set of brushes to create a certain look that you want, the end result of your painting will be heavily reliant on your understanding of the fundamentals. So yes, that thumbnail is very clickbaity, but I just had to, I'm sorry. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there, make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to this topic, and I'm not sending the wrong message saying that you need to have these brushes that I use in order to create a good image, because you totally don't. Okay, now that that is out of the way, let's get on to the video. Here are the brushes that I use to create portraits. Okay, so these first two are actually, I use them as a pair for sketching. This custom sketch brush is just the basic 2 opacity brush that I added pressure size to so that I can get a nice taper. And I use the basic 1 brush to erase if I ever make a mistake. And what I learned with KRITA is that you can switch back and forth between 2 brushes using the question mark key, so I just use that to easily go back and forth between them. Now you might be wondering, like, why don't I just use E for an eraser? Because like, if you press E, you can switch the brush head that you're currently using as an eraser. Well, I do this because I want to have a bigger eraser than my sketch brush that I'm using, so that when I want to erase a bigger area, then I can do it pretty quickly, If I do that with the same size that I have with my sketch brush, then it'll just take forever. Using the question mark key is just a lot faster than having to press E and then having to resize the brush so that it'll be bigger. And yeah, that is pretty much it for the sketching process. I also use the Liquify tool a lot in order to mess around with proportions and get things right without having to erase things. And by the way, you made it this far in the video anyway, so why don't you consider subscribing, It's free, you'll get notified about my future uploads and all that pizzazz. So yeah, consider subscribing if you want to. For the coloring, I start off with blocking the silhouette of the character that I'm painting, using again the basic 1 brush, this time not as an eraser. Then I use the clipping group function. If you want to know how I did that, then I'm gonna be linking my tutorial video up in that card. For shading, I mainly use 5 brushes. And while I use them pretty randomly, I still have a sort of loose idea of what to use what brush for. I always start off using the chalk grainy brush in order to block in the main shapes of the portrait, like the shadows, the eyebrows, the lip color, and all of that. I use the basic 2 opacity brush for that same function, but for the smaller portions of the image, like probably shading the eyes, like that, yeah. Every once in a while, I'll also use a mixer brush from the Radiant Brush Pack, which I'll be linking in the description. I either use the RS Mixer Soft or the RS Mixer Textured one, just to soften some areas. But I don't recommend using this too much because your painting can end up looking blurry and not very structured once you get carried away with it, so yeah. I also use this very interesting brush called RN Edge. It's very nice for quickly adding some edge variation to your piece because it has one edge that is flat and straight and another that is soft and blended. So It's really nice. And I also used the airbrush, of course. I used it in this piece to darken the perimeter of the model's face because I think the person has a bit of bronzer on. And I'll be linking their Instagram in the description, so go check them out. And to be honest, that is mainly it for the entire piece. I just changed up the sort of main brush that I use for each part. Like for the skin, I mainly use the opacity 2 brush and the chalk grainy one. And for the hair, I mainly use the RN Edge brush. But I still use the other ones. It's just that I vary how much I use them for the different parts to achieve a certain texture. What matters most is that you place the right values in the right areas and you add enough variation of hard and soft edges in the painting. So for the first part of this painting, that is it. I just make the sketch and then add the colors under the sketch first. After I feel happy about what I've created, I then proceed to painting over the sketch and start rendering the image. Here I'm just slowly but surely painting over the different parts of the sketch that I feel like I don't need anymore, so that I can create a more rendered look. But I don't paint over every part, as you can see. It's important to make sure that you're not messing too much with what you've created underneath, that you're still maintaining the right values and you're not messing too much with the edge variation that you've created. I go back to the sketching brush sometimes and add back some of the sketch lines at the silhouette of the character so that we can have that very clean look. I also blurred some parts of the character's silhouette. I just think it looks nice. I don't know why. And I don't know if it's just me or ears are just so boring to paint. I literally almost forgot to render it in this piece. At this stage, it is mainly just refining what we've already created. This is probably my favorite part of the process because it already looks really good, so I just get to play around with random brushes and add some interesting textures. For those of y'all who were wondering what brushes I use to add the halftone, it is the Screen Tone Pressure brush. So yeah, that is it. Of course, we need to add the mandatory sparkle. Again, I just used the basic 2 opacity and blocked in the shapes of colors of the earrings. Then I used the airbrush to add some glow and I used the pencil 1 hard brush so I can create the sparkle. There you see me adding my signature and we're basically done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this interesting or helpful in some way. Tell me in the comments what more videos you want to see from me. And follow me on my socials. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Twitter. It's nice to see our little community grow slowly but steadily. Remember to have fun with art and goodbye.